Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Broadcasting Results with Rouse. Y'all, we are here with another Monday, yet still in the month of March. And as you all have seen, the flow of March, it's catered to all of our women that I feel that have paved the way for me as a mentor, just seeing them from a distance. And tonight I have yet a dear, I say young lady, but a seasonal individual that I've known for many, many years. Starting out, she's been a tax lady, got the buses on the road. Some of you all in King Street call her Big Martha, you all. So the community lady around the way, just doing great things. And I have a pleasure tonight to have none other than Miss Martha Darby Scott taking a seat at the table. So I first just want to say welcome, Miss Scott. Thank you for taking the time as we honor you for Women's History Month, but yet honor you tonight as you take a seat at the table just to tell us a little bit more about you. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Turquoise Rouse. We are so excited about this invitation that you have given me an opportunity to just come on your podcast,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
is such a wonderful, wonderful tool of getting information out for our community, our families. I just can't say how great this is for us in Williamsburg County.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So as many of you all know, come on in, tag in, tag in. If you would reshare this, you all, and tag Miss Martha's name to this broadcast. Show her some love out there. Show her some love. Show her some love. And as she mentioned, it's been a great honor to showcase Williamsburg County, all of the great things that is being done here, yet will be done here, but yet all over the world. This broadcast gives an opportunity for anyone that would like to take a seat at the table just to be able to tell their story. And tonight, you all, we will tune in to hear a little bit more about Miss Martha as she tells us her story. But I want her to first start off for those of you that are tuning in that are wondering, like, who is this lady, right? So I want her to be able to tell you a little bit about herself. So, Miss Martha, if you would just tell the people a little bit about you.
Okay, I'm excited to tell you who I am. I was born and raised in a small town called Salter, South Carolina, near Burroughs Crossroad, now known as the Cooper's Country Store intersection. I grew up there, went to Lane School, went to Blakely School, left Blakely School, came to King Street Elementary, Junior High, and graduated from King Street Senior High School in 1976 as a boll weevil. Went on from there, went on to college, went first to Columbia Junior College, a major in business administration, left there, and then I enrolled at South Carolina State University, took some classes there, graduated from Limestone College with my bachelor's degree in social work, and went on from there to the University of South Carolina, where I obtained my master's degree in social work. Since that time, I've worked in Williamsburg County after returning home from college, and I just love Williamsburg County. But just to back up a little bit, in growing up in Salter, South Carolina, that's where I started business.
Mm.
Didn't realize how it would end up later in my life as being into business. But when I was about 10 to 12 years old, I started out going into the woods, picking huckleberries and putting them into quart jars, taking them out to the highway where 521 is full of beach traffic. So as a little girl, I would go out there and I would have the jars full of huckleberries, and the people would stop beside the road and I would sell them to them.
Oh.
Now, I didn't have a price listed on the jars. So if they looked like they had a lot of money, I would tell them it was $2. And if it looked like they had a little bit of money, I would tell them it was $1. So I
Okay.
was hustling, I was hustling even when I was a little girl. I started that business. And then when the cucumber market season came around, I came up with an idea of how I could sell hot dogs to the people that came to the cucumber market where my mother worked. My mother was always a hustler, I called her, because she always paved the way of how you can work one job and then do things on the side to make extra money. So I'm
Mm,
sure that's where I copied all of that from. And I'm so glad that she led the way for me to learn how to survive in this world with business. Now, I did hot dog sales and it was very productive. So that was one of my second business. My third business was when I was a young adult. When I got married, I was working. I started off working in the school system as a teacher's aide. And from there, I started helping out in the community in various things, lending hand with volunteering and doing things like that. But I always had an urge of helping people. And that's when I had the urge to go back to school in human service. And I
mm,
returned to social work and even doing the business kinds of stuff. I wanted to help people more in the community. Um, my one, I call them the third business. Um, at age 18, I went to a class to learn how to prepare income tax. Williamsburg Tech was providing that course. No one told me to go, but just having a drive of and an interest in business, I went and I started learning how to prepare income tax. So I've
mm.
been doing income tax preparation since I was 18 years old. Started out on the paper. They didn't have computer software then. And I went from doing that until purchasing my own computer and software and went from a clientele of 20 folks up to 120
Mm.
customers. Since that time, I have downsized my customer base by choice because my hand got so heavy in doing so many other things. So
Right.
that's just a little bit of the start of business for myself. I've been in the business.
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
been making extra money and I've been working from 9 to 5.
Listen, again, you all, we are tuning in here, you all, with Miss Scott, 10 to 11-year old, who started right here on 521, which is a major highway that leads to 95 to any traffic that wants to go down to Myrtle Beach. So, at 9 or 10, she's out there testing the people. Look at observation. Whether she felt like they had more than enough is $2. If not, she'll bear with you for $1. But she ain't letting you go no lower than that. But again, I appreciate you highlighting your mother, and I'm sure if she was here, she would definitely be pleased with what she poured into you, but yet what you're continuing to do. Because I also see you pouring it into your kids. They're out there grinding, doing their thing, and that's just the reflection of what you've done, yet what your mother done. But I also want to give kudos to your husband too, because again, that's the partnership that you have right there by your side. So kudos to him as well. I got to give that to him if he's out there watching. Um, but I want you to go back to these huckleberries for us young folks that don't necessarily know what that means. That was something major back in your days. Can you kind of explain to us that don't know what that is, kind of what that was you were selling?
Yes, the huckleberries were very, very plentiful during that time. Huckleberries and blackberries. And they grew on other people's property. And the other folks, they were so kind that they allowed us to come onto their property. It's a very good fruit for the body. The
Mm,
huckleberries, you hear a lot of talk now on how the vitamins are in the elderberries and the huckleberries and the blueberries, and they were so good and tasty and sweet. They had
mm,
their own sweetness, and people made pies out of them. They made dumpling, all kinds of good fruits and flavorful dishes they had. So the folks really put a lot of effort in trying to obtain the berries, and they canned them. They put them in their freezer. They put them in jars. And so now you may be able to still find some huckleberries, but
mm.
they're not as plentiful as when we grew up. We would eat them, wash them off. Sometimes we didn't wash them. We would just eat them because all
Yes.
the chemistry weren't as prevalent then as it is now. So if you see huckleberries around, be sure to get you some. They're very expensive now in the
Mm.
grocery store. They call them blackberries, huckleberries, blueberries. They call them blueberries a lot, but we call them huckleberries.
Yes,
So,
miss. I appreciate that. Obviously, I grew up during the era of what was called blackberries, and you're right. We didn't summer times at grandma's house. There was no rinsing off. You just go and grab them off the trees or the hinds, and you're just eating. But I want to segue just for a second because again, you have brothers, so I could just imagine 10 to 11 year of age. What was the mindset of your brother seeing their sister out there hustling with this business mindset?
well, I always say that my mom and dad had like, I call it like two sets of children. Um, my three oldest brothers, they were like 12 years. The oldest brother is 12 years older than I was. When he graduated high school from Blakely, I was just going to first grade. So I didn't get to grow up with him. And then the second brother was right behind him. The third brother was 5 years older. Well, he was like 8 years older than I was. So that those first three older brothers, they didn't really get to see us in action, the three younger ones. Now, my brother that works at Cooper's Country Store, Laverne, now he was like the big brother, even though he's only 3 years older than I am. And then my brother, Dr. Darby, Clarence Darby, he is like 2 years older than I am. They weren't into a lot of business things like I was trying to figure out how to make all this extra money, but they always worked. My mom always had all of us working, doing something, and to make a little extra money. Now, they were in the yard raking
Yes,
during that
ma'am.
time. So people in the community would ask them to rake the yard. And, everybody was in the farming during that time. So we
Right.
picked cucumbers, put in tobacco. I was young for putting in tobacco, but I had to hand tobacco. As afraid as I was of worms, oh my God. But I had to hand tobacco. So we all came up working, but they weren't into the business part of it like I was trying to make extra money. So they just stood back and wait on me to give them 25 cents or 50 cents.
Yes, ma'am. Well, again, that's good to know. And your brother is still holding it down with Miss Kelly at Cooper Country Store, and they're still rocking and rolling. So that also shows the kind of the pathway that you probably placed in him along the way, that he's still right there where it all started at. So kudos to him and Miss Kelly, because you best to believe she is holding it down there at Cooper Country Store.
Yes, yes, she is. Yes, she
Yes,
is.
ma'am. So, Ms. Martha, you mentioned at 18 of age. Well, let me go back. You mentioned a couple of schoolings that you took off and went after. Columbia College being one, South Carolina State, and then you went back for your master's. But at 18 old of age, you presented yourself on the campus of Williamsburg Tech, with them offering this tax service. Again, as you mentioned, no one, sent you, is just led on your heart. You're there. You started off to 20, and then your clientele increased at 18, by the way. So you just imagine as a young person seeking that path, yet college. What have that been like for you? Granted, you've downsized by choice, but at that age, what have that done for you going into college a little bit?
Well, actually, it helped me with a lot of accounting knowledge that when I went to school, I was able to apply a lot of what I learned at Williamsburg Tech, where I got my base. Now, I
Mm,
mentioned that I mentioned the other colleges I went to, but I need to go back and remind everyone that I got an associate degree from Williamsburg Technical College. And I was a member of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society there.
mm,
So that's where I started my base education, in getting those tax courses and taking some computer courses. There, I obtained an associate degree. I
yes,
know
ma'am.
as I communicate to everyone tonight, I'm educating myself because I didn't realize all of the things that I was introduced to as a young adult, as a young girl. And I started counting the businesses. But at 18, once I went away to college and came back in the early 2000s, I had a vision of trying to help tutor children in our community. Now, I had my own kids at that time, they were very young, and we would work with our children in trying to tutor them. And I was always living in an unselfish environment,
Yes, ma'am.
meaning that if I can do it for my kids, I wanted to be able to help other people kids succeed and do well also. So actually, I opened the first compute tutoring center in Williamsburg County.
Mm,
That was in the early 2000s. It might have been in the late 90s. Now I remember um, that was before the after school programs developed in Williamsburg County.
mm,
They didn't have after school programs when I started the Compute Tutoring Center. And I remember um, going to the school district, asking them how my little small 4 computers could help the students. I ended up with 4 brand new computers, and I knew it was an act of God
mm,
because I wanted to get one computer, and I researched on how to get that computer to help the students. And I ended up talking to a young man out in California that told me how I could get 4 new computers for $2,500. I knew that was an act of God because one computer during the 90s had cost $2,500. So it was a miracle happening. And we opened the Compute Tutoring Center. I got the article clipped out of the Kingstree News that
mm,
they wrote up. We started with a little building in our yard. I ran across some of my students that helped assist in tutoring the children. Stephen Barr, Maurice McCullough, those just to name a few of the ones that came. Stephen's brother,
mm.
they all came and lent a hand, and I remember paying them in a little envelope, a little stipend of $10 and $12. That was back in the 90s. And
Yes.
it was early 2000, late 90s, early 2000. So that was another business venture that we had. We ended up downtown King Street, on Mill Street, opened a building there, and we tutored over 75 students throughout the year that came through. So that was another business venture that I entered and was blessed with. So I'm going to move on because I know time is moving. But Carolina Travel and Tours. Carolina Travel and Tours, we went into business before we got into Carolina Travel and Tours. We were just Carolina Travel, which is my travel agency,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
I entered into that business in 1995. I've been a certified travel agent since 1995, booking travel for folks all over the United States. And during that time, we were abroad. Now we don't do the international, we just do more US travel
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Caribbean and the Caribbean, Hawaii. We still do a lot of that. But I just want to share that we entered into the charter bus business in 2007, where we started with our charter bus business, taking people all over the 50 states, Canada, all the way down to the Florida Keys.
Mhm.
We have 5 drivers, and all of our drivers that we have, most of them been with us since opening the business.
Mm,
So I know that speaks volume for our business that we have the same drivers. People love our drivers. Our drivers make the business.
absolutely.
Yeah. And the customers, we're just so thankful for our customer base. We serve schools all across the state of South Carolina, all the way up to Savannah, Georgia, North Carolina. We got contracts with Horry County Schools, Florence County Schools, Richland County Schools, Beaufort County Schools. We move every day. You see those buses leave out. They're all over the states.
Yes,
And we
ma'am.
just give God thanks for that because it's His doing, His blessings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, you all, if you are just tuning in, we are here taking a seat at the table with the one and only Miss Martha Scott, you all, who is telling us her story, and yet a remarkable story as we talk to a young lady that started at about 10 to 11-year old right here on the main stretch of 521 selling huckleberries, you all. Some of you all know them as blackberries or blueberries, but those things was major growing up during the summertime because I definitely enjoyed them with my cousins, going to my grandparents. When we got home in the afternoon time, my mom would go and walk the road and find her vine with a bunch of them. And like she mentioned, it wasn't always about rinsing them off. Sometimes you just ate those things right there on the spot. But Ms. Martha, before I ask you about Carolina Track, because I do want to ask you something about that, I, I got to go back to these hot dogs because I want to know if they're still a thing. Are you still the lady to get the hot dogs from?
Yeah, actually, that's my favorite food,
Mm,
hot dogs. I wanted to train my grandbabies in how to run a hot dog cart, but I just hadn't had enough time to do that. I wanted to invest in it for them
yes, ma'am.
so that they can learn how to work hard and earn honest money.
Mm-hmm.
But I still do a mean chili,
Okay.
but I love hot dogs. That's one of my favorite food.
All right, all right. I just had to ask you that because everybody loves a good hot dog, and when you mentioned that, I was like, hold on, I got to go back and ask her about this hot dog because if it's good, I mean, she's still whipping up some good chili. So I'm sure you would definitely find the time to make that happen for your grandkids because just knowing who you are, been around you for a long time, you're definitely that go getter. So I'm sure you would definitely find time to instill that into your grandkids as well. But when we talk about Carolina travel, because these buses has definitely been on the road for a number of years and have made a significant impact in a lot of communities, some in which you just mentioned. What really inspired you to even start the business when you're talking about charter buses?
Well, when I first had the interest in charter buses, I wanted to add a bus to my travel business to be able to take my customers on tours.
Mm,
Didn't realize how highly federally regulated the charter bus business is. It's
mm,
no joke. Everybody can't run it. It's
mm.
a serious task that you must be serious about because you're just a thin line from being free to being incarcerated if you don't operate it properly.
Yes, ma'am.
When I spoke with my husband, who is a strong gem in my success in everything that I do, he's been
Mhm.
right there with me 150%. Um,
Absolutely.
a lot of stuff I could not do without him. His manpower is so strong and his calmness in allowing me to be who I am and to be what I think I can be has been a really big beneficial asset to my success. So my husband, Isaac Scott, they call him Bunny. He has just been right there with me, and that's how our business have grown.
Absolutely.
Because we work together with everything, and we try to stay on one accord. We butt heads sometimes, but we know how to pull our heads back and realize it's not about us. It's about this
Yes, ma'am.
business and the customers. So we've been in business now 18 years
Mm.
and trying to get our children interested in this expensive business. Just want to share one piece about how expensive the business is.
Yes,
A
ma'am.
brand new motor coach costs $650,000.
Mm.
That's one bus. Insurance for one bus could range anyway from $30,000 a year to $75,000 a year, depending on how good of a driver's accident record you have.
Mm.
So, with an A1 record, your insurance can begin at $30,000 per bus a year.
Hmm. I'm sitting here doing the calculation, and then that's literally between 680,000 to $725,000. Buying a new bus, yet the insurance, and sometimes I think a lot of times I should say when we look at the business journey, sometimes we don't calculate all of the expense that a person really have to go up front with. And so, like you say, it is very much expensive. And when you think about the liability, the drivers, their records, that's a lot of things that has to be put in place. So I appreciate you being open and willing to just even share that little bit about the business itself. But I do want to ask this. Again, kudos to Mr. Isaac, who's definitely been there. I've seen him come on the scenes, get on those buses, do his thing, and like she say, he is almost like he knew his part. Like he comes, get to the back of that bus, check things, go on it, like he does it. So I definitely want to say kudos to him. And he has that little look on his face, like, yeah, I got it, I got it. But even with business, Miss Martha, you mentioned something about you and Mr. Isaac, and that's anything when you have a partner. Sometimes we all disagree, but we find our way back, and I appreciate you mentioning that. But for those that are viewing, can you share with us when we talk about businesses, help us understand the challenges that you sometimes face as a business owner, and how do you find your way overcoming them?
There are great challenges in business. And you may think it's a myth that the first 5 years in business is nonprofit. You have
Mm,
to work and build it up. Going into a business is not an easy task, and you
yes,
must
ma'am.
enjoy what business you're going into to be able to survive in it. If you don't love it, if you don't really like it, you will not remain in it.
Mm.
You have to have a love and a passion for the mission of the business. It's not all about the money because a lot of times you're going to work hard in it without money. And you have to keep that in mind. You're going to be mistreated. You're going to be talked about. It's going to be unfairness. Um, you're going to face all of those challenges. You're
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
face some up days and some down days. And you have to have good integrity in your own business
Mm.
because oftentimes people can rob themselves of their own business.
Yes, ma'am.
So you must keep in mind that you must be honest to your own business. You must be dedicated and devoted, and you must be professional, kind, loving, and most of all, patient in your
Mm.
own business.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, but it's not an easy task. It's a lot of work. Oftentimes, when folks are sleeping at night, I'm working.
Yes, ma'am. So, Miss Martha, you mentioned I was jotting down a couple of words: hard work, being honest, patient. And so, when I'm hearing you say those things, and you also talked a little bit about, your drivers, yet your customers. How do you ensure that you provide, yet your drivers provide excellent customer service and a great travel experience for your clients?
Good training. I talk with my drivers. We have training. We meet during our training. I shadow them. We have sessions where they know my expectations.
Hmm.
One thing about a business, whatever the leader set precedence with, the expectations, the followers usually will follow in line. If they don't follow in line, most time they won't be around very long.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
they already know that what kind of person I am. They know what kind of treatment to my customers I expect. They know what I expect of the drivers, and they know my personality and my love for people. So they bring to the table a lot of those attributes.
Right.
They know I'm a Christian. So they know I live Christian way and I talk Christian talk. So, and I walk Christian walk. So they know what the business expects of them. So once you lay that out, your followers 9 times out of 10 will follow suit. And if they don't, they know they won't be in that team building very long.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, thinking back, Miss Martha, from the first time you and Mr. Isaac sat down, had the conversation about the bus services, and he was on board, and you took off until this very moment. Can you share with us maybe one of your most memorable experiences or success story in regards to your business?
Yeah, when I went into this business, my husband is kind of laid back. So he just probably thought I was kind of crazy in some of the stuff I wanted to do.
Yes,
So he
ma'am.
just kind of laid back and let me just do what I thought I could do.
Mm.
Some of the most memorable experience I've had, this business is so highly technical that I find myself turning into a mechanic.
Mm.
I did and still do a lot of praying because this business is highly stressed, highly stressed. You're getting ready to send your bus out, and all of a sudden it's not doing something, and you don't know what's happening to it. But in 2 hours, it got to be 3 hours away. So I find myself one night online with my tech support, and them telling me what to do, and my husband telling me, you better not do that. I took the whole dashboard down on the bus. And my husband was telling me, you gonna mess something up. And I said to him, it's messed up already, but I got to get this bus moving. And at that time, I remember, at that time, I remember telling, telling my husband that I had to follow the instructions of the technician. And it was about an hour later, I was able to get that issue resolved.
Mhm.
All the wires showing in the dash, and me with a screwdriver and putting it back together. That was a memorable moment in
Mhm.
this bus business. That I started out as a travel agent, a bus company owner, but I ended up turning into a mechanic. And against his permission.
Yes, man. So I'm sitting here laughing because I can just imagine how he was looking. 'Cause-
Oh my Lord.
But I want to go back to something you mentioned, Ms. Martha, about hard work. You mentioned training, yet patience. And as I heard you saying what you were saying about the whole memorable experience, I thought just in that very moment of what you shared, you also had to apply those same things to yourself. Being patient in that moment, honest enough to yourself to say, I gotta get this bus back going. I gotta get this. But yet your hard work, yet your dedication showed because you also had to apply the training that was given to you through the tech. So now, years later, you can look back at it and say, hey, have I ever run into that again? Here's something I learned from it, right? So that's good to know that you was willing to take the risk even against Mr. Isaac Will at that very moment. But you also learn something out of it that you can now reapply to your drivers if they're on the road. Like you can now say, hey, check this because you've been through it. So now you kind of know.
That's
So
right.
I can
Mhm.
understand in those moments. I can imagine Mr. Isaac feeling because now you're tampering with a lot of things here. But in essence, it was a growing pain, but yet it was a learning lesson that now you can take many years now and still apply it to it. So a little bit of indifferent, but yet it worked out in the end. So
It did. It did.
thank you for sharing that. Again, you all, if you are just tuning in, we are here with Miss Martha Darby Scott as she tells us her journey. And we were just talking a little bit about Carolina travel and tour, you all. She talked about starting, I got to go back to starting as a 10 yet 11-year-old roundabout time right there on the major highway of 521, what most of us know now as Cooper Country Store, selling huckleberries, as some people know now, blackberry blueberries. And so again, we just want to thank her for sharing that part of her journey, yet telling us about Carolina travel. But Ms. Martha, I want to go into another area, and I'm laughing because I can hear a lot of the King Street folks saying, that's Big Martha. That is Big Martha. And I want to talk about your journey as a community advocate. I want to go straight for a moment to your heart that you poured into a couple of years ago when you all, and correct me because I may be saying it wrong, but you all started this King Street alumni weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And I kind of followed through. I saw kind of the vision in which you and your committee was pouring out, but from a business owner going into a community leader, what was that like to still want to again help people? Because you all just don't have a weekend. You all actually utilize that weekend to raise money to pour back into a lot of these people that show up, kids, nieces and nephews, cousins at these various schools. So can you tell us a little bit about what that vision was when you and your committee started out and wanting to do that?
Yeah, back here in 2016, I believe it was, it was just a handful of us met one day um, to come up with an idea of how we can help our school, our high school, um, purchase some things that was needed. Not even envisioning a big dream at the time, but just starting small. Those members, I think that first meeting that we met, it was just a few of us. Winfred Pendergrass, Burnett Pendergrass, Catherine Sab Graham, myself. Um, I may be missing one other person, but I knew it was about 4 or 5 of us
Mm-hmm.
came up together to figure out what we can do to try to raise some monies to do something to help. First, I think the first thought was the speaker system for the football field. It was terrible. It was wah, 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 wah. It was like I went to a game that night and it was like, oh no, I'm the kind of person, I'm not just going to complain about something if I can't help bring some solutions to how we can make it better.
Yes, ma'am.
So right after that, we met. It was like, oh, we need to do something. We need to raise some money, try to get this speaker system or something. But it went from that to organizing how we can have little things to raise monies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our first year, we raised like $1,200, which I believe we put in $500 or $600 of the $1,200 we raised. So we threw the idea out there of bringing the classmates together to help raise a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
I always had in the back of my head that we could have raised $100,000,
Mm-hmm.
but I was always afraid to tell people that because they thought they would have think I was crazy to say that, and I didn't want to send off a negative vibe.
Yes, ma'am.
But I had that in my head ever since 2016. But to me, I said, they might think I'm just crazy if I say something like that. So each year, we begin to gather classes and then tell them our mission of trying to raise the monies to do some things for the high school. And they started chiming in, and the classes started volunteering. And we went from $1,500 to $2,500 one year to like $3,700. Then one year we had 2 classmates. They were doing good in their business. They said, we're going to do something good with you all working so hard with this mission. The 2 of them together donated $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
That was about 4 years in the making of the fest. And then the next year, I can't remember right off, but we raised like 12 or $13,000 with the classes coming together. The classmates did it. They followed us and they trusted us. They believed in our mission and they started bringing that money and donating. So for the first 4 or 5 years, we put our personal monies in there to make sure we were getting monies coming in. Now we're at the point, last year, the last 2 years, we had right at 50 classes, just about all the classes coming together for the Alumni Fest. Last year was the first year we expanded the weekend. Homecoming on Thursday. We had some classes, did some drop-ins and breakfast. Friday, we have homecoming parade, homecoming evening, after parties. Saturday is the big day for the fest. Sunday, we
Mhm.
had a packed gymnasium, an alumni game. So we have broadened this event into an entire weekend, and we did it. The classmates did it, but it came from us trusting one another and following the leader. You got to have a leader.
Yes, ma'am.
You got to have a leader. You just got to trust people, and you
Mhm.
got to believe in yourself that things can and will grow. And we are moving forward. We can, whatever God allows us to be, we can be.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
what the KSH Alumni Fest is about. We have a committee now, a regular planning committee of 14 members, and we have a 37 committee members of class representatives and the committee members. So we have a big group that works together and pulling all this together for the event.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, you viewers out there, y'all give some hearts for Big Martha, as they call her in the town of King Street. Because again, as she stated, you talking about starting with $1,200, which most people would say, well, where did it go to? Where did it went? What is it used for? And now they're up. She's going to get to her mark of 100 grand. Trust and believe that, because by faith, all things are going to work. We know that for sure. And I just love the perseverance that you all have put into it, the journey that you all have come together, regardless of what it looks like. You all just gel together and make it happen. I just want to say kudos to you, the staff, and all of those that plays a part with the various classes to pull this off. So definitely kudos to you. I,
I,
I
I
want
do I do want to share that this year we raised over $50,000, and we were able to donate 25,000 so far to the high school, and $500 we will be delivering this week to every elementary and junior high school in the Williamsburg County School District.
mm,
And those $500 can be utilized for incentives that they choose to give to their students for good performance, good testing, spring activities, Mayfest. They can use it however they choose to use it. But every department at the high school was given monies for their department, every student at the high school was able to be touched with those funds that we, the KSH alumni group, as well as community folks that came out and supported it, donated. So we just want to tell them again, thank you. And we look
yes.
forward to you bringing all your monies back again this year.
Y'all heard of coming back again for this year, all doing it again for a great cause. But Ms. Martha, you've been around for a long time, and as a community leader, as I look to you are, many would say when we talk about Williamsburg County, or Express, I should say, that is not much to do here. What would you suggest to residents for them to get involved and be more engaged?
It's a lot to do here. You just have to get out and be involved and do it. I just witnessed a lot of advertisement this past few weeks with our recreation departments. They have things for children as well as adults. They have a lot of sports activities that children are signing up for, that they can sign up for. Sign your kids up, get them involved. Fathers, go by and pick up these children from the mothers. If you're not in the home with the children, get them out and get them signed up with some of these activities. One thing I want to say to the adults, I see them advertising a lot of line dances. That's exercise. Sign up, get involved, participate. They have some evening events downtown King Street, music in the depot. Hang out, take your lawn chairs, sit out and just catch some fresh air.
Yes, ma'am.
We have events that are being planned across the county in different areas, Lanes, Trio, Blakely, St. Mark, Cades, Greeleyville, King Street. Listen out for those events. Go. Sundays, church have programs. They have gospel singing. Put your clothes on. There are things to do. It's more to do than you're able to do. So you make it happen. You build your county. If you attend meetings, go. So stop saying there's nothing to do if you hadn't been there doing it, because
Mm.
it's a lot to do if you choose to do it.
Yes,
Now we're
ma'am.
looking forward for some more things to do, but with us, we have to be the one to participate in the right now things so that we can show that we will be there when they bring new things.
Absolutely.
Now, the rec department needs rebranding, rebuilding, and that's what they're working on, bringing new things and doing new things. But you got to sign up and sign your kids up. And
Yes, ma'am.
fathers, I mentioned the fathers because I want to say to the mothers, we shouldn't mind if the fathers don't have money to give some of the children some of the time. Let them know, come on and take your child out and do something with them, whether you got a dollar or not. That's more valuable.
Mm.
It may not be more valuable to us, the mother, who wanting some extra funds and finances, but it's more valuable to your child emotional being.
Mm.
Daddies, get involved. Your children emotional beings need you.
Yes, ma'am.
They're not worrying about $5. They're not worrying about a cheeseburger. Get involved. Your emotional being for your children means more than the money. And we'll build a safer community. We'll build a more healthier community for our children.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
the important thing. That's what we need. That's what we need.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And again, if you all are tuning in, viewing here, again, we are sitting at the table with Miss Martha Darby Scott, you all. And if you obviously have any questions for her, please drop them in the comments and we'll view it and ask them as we come up with them. But I appreciate that, Miss Martha. And I want to ask you this as we segue into another part. But one last question in regards to the business. We have a lot of individuals that are out here starting small businesses and or already have small businesses. What role would you tell us to position ourselves when we talk about small businesses strengthening our local community? Like how do you feel that that helps play a part when we talk about growing accounting?
Well, small businesses, all businesses have started as small businesses and they have grown into larger businesses. So small businesses are very important as long as you put your ducks in a row. And when I say put your ducks in a row, you must be able to establish a financial plan and making sure that that small business that you start 20 years from now, it can repay you something that you have invested into it. So investing into Social Security as you start your small business is so important.
Mm,
You can't put all of the monies in your pocket. because you won't have anything to come back and give back to you. So, starting a small business in a community is good. Working a 9 to 5 is even better sometimes if you hadn't done that prior to starting a small business.
Mhm.
I know a business is the thing that everybody is into now, wanting to go into their own business.
Mhm.
But how you going to really be successful if you work you a 9 to 5 and start you a business on the side and you be able to reap the benefit from both later.
Oh, I'm a living testimony to it. It is
That's
working.
it. That is that's the part.
Yes, ma'am.
Get you a 9 to 5, get you some benefits, then you start your own business. And you can do both side by side if you have the time.
Yes, ma'am.
And you can build your community. You can't sit back looking for others to bring. I hear so many people saying, "Oh, we need some kids' activities here. We need something for the children to do." Well, who are you expecting to bring that to you? How much are you putting in to help that make that happen?
Mhm.
You know, I heard it over and over again. I hear it a lot.
Yes,
But we
ma'am.
got to stop and think on how we need to come together to build our own base, to help bring activities for the children if that's what we desire. And it's a good thing, but we got to start figuring out how we can make it happen for ourselves,
Yes, ma'am.
investing back into us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Again, if you have any questions for Ms. Martha, please drop them in the comments. Ms. Martha, if you don't mind for a second, I want to go to a personal journey with you, if you don't mind. And when I
I
think about
know.
this, I think about resilience. I've seen you, like I say, growing up as a little girl, coming through high school, college. Obviously, your son and I went to college together, and there was a point where you faced breast cancer, but you beat it. Can you kind of take us back to that very moment and tell us the strength that you obviously had to have? Um, how was that when you're talking about an 18-year tax provider, a hustler at 10 and 11, and then now you segue into your adult year, and then you're hit with this journey of dealing with breast cancer, which is a testament to a lot of people that have survived, but you wear it so well, like so well. But can you kind of share that with us? Like, what was that journey like, and what kept you motivated?
Yes, back in 2011, um, I've always been going in to get my mammogram. Since I turned, at that time, I think it was like 45, 47, 48, somewhere along that line was the recommended time to start going, which it should have been earlier. But I got a few of them that was clear. But in 2011, I was, I think, 52 years old. Um, Found out I had a lump in my breast and wasn't sick or anything. So it's so important. I want to say this first,
Mm,
to get your mammogram, get your health checkups. Don't think because you're walking around feeling good and doing good that you're just okay, because we don't know what's going on in our bodies.
yes, ma'am.
So I went and got my mammogram, and they discovered I had a lump in my breast.
Mm,
And I ended up, it was cancer, and I had to have a lumpectomy. When I went back to the doctor, um, I wasn't afraid because I lived with Christ. I wasn't as close to Christ then as I am now, but I remember the word, study the word of the Lord,
Mm.
because those are the things that will help you get through crisis, his promises. And I remember telling myself as I drove to Florence that, no one guaranteed you how long you will be on this earth
Yes, ma'am.
and the journey that you will travel. So, no need to start feeling sorry for yourself. Face what you got to face and deal with it. And tell the Lord what you want. That's what I told myself.
Mm.
And I told the Lord what I desired. Um, Not having grandchildren, one grand at that time. And I told him I wanted to see my grands grow up.
Mm.
And I told him some other things that I was dealing with. And I just told him all I wanted to do. And just like a burden lift off of me. And I went through my treatment. I went through almost a year of chemotherapy. I went through 35 radiation. I drove myself to 34 radiations.
Mm.
My husband was there. He could have driven with me, but I guess I was looking like I was doing too good.
Mm.
And they didn't realize how sick I was.
Mm.
But through it all, my family was with me, my children was with me, and I'm sure I had a praying community. And I worked 35 years with the Department of Mental Health as a clinical social worker, program manager. And I had taken out over 100 and some odd mentally ill clients from the state institution and had placed them back into the community. And those clients gathered in a circle and they prayed for me.
Mm.
I can't think of 100 and some odd angels that God would have centered around me to pray for me. They did that. And I know that their prayers were answered.
Amen.
So I fought this fight and I went through it knowing that the Lord was going to be with me one way or the other. And then I shared it. That's the piece I want to tell you. I talked about it. I
Mm.
told folks what was going on with me. I announced it at public events because someone, mother, father, sister, aunt, child, daughter, was going to be diagnosed very soon. And I felt that if they could see me and I was being okay, that it would have given them some hope. And I walk today still telling folks with breast cancer that have gone through breast cancer, that will face breast cancer, we are the hope that God has placed before man, because this thing now is like a common cold.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate you really diving into that. It's definitely been a testimony, like you said, for yourself to stand openly yet boldly to talk about your journey, because again, you have other people that are dealing with it differently than you, but now you're opening up room for people to really go out and be able to share this story as well. So I appreciate that. And again, you all, if you have questions, please drop them in the comments so we can see them for Ms. Martha. Um, Breast cancer is a touchy situation for a lot of people, Ms. Martha, and I've seen you through a lot of events throughout the communities, really at the forefront of it. And so, again, I thank you for your dedication to the cause, because, again, through you, you're also lifting someone else. And also, it's just a reminder for us that is never too old yet young to stay ahead of your health, And
That's
like
right.
you said, don't take it for granted just because I'm waking up every morning feeling like I'm feeling good, because you
There
don't
you
know
go.
what's truly going on in your body. So I appreciate you for sharing that. Again, you all, as we wind down what I call the legendary Martha Darby Scott for tonight, if you have any last minute questions, please drop them in the comments. Miss Martha, right before we finalize things and let you give your closing thoughts, I want to ask you, I know you downsized a little bit with the tax services, but is there any future goals or plans that we should know about in regards to Carolina traveling tours?
Well, right now, we're still functioning as Carolina Travel and Tours. I know my mind has come across retirement. I'm not sure how that will look. Trying to get our children involved in the business to see if they're interested in dealing with some of the headaches that come with it.
Mm,
It's a very lucrative business. However, it blesses so many people. And I would love to see it stay around.
yes,
Um,
ma'am.
there are not many African Americans
Mm,
in this business, and definitely not hardly any African American females. Now, there are some females, Black females, that are in this business, but they inherited the business from their uncle or grandfather or father. I am a female, Black female, that started my business from the ground.
amen.
That
Kudos to
sounds
you.
like boots on the ground.
There you
This
go.
business, I had to put some boots on the ground with this business.
Yes, ma'am.
So you might see female owners, white and Black, but they inherited their business from
Right.
family members.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but it is a nice business to be in, and I would like to see some younger folks that are interested in it explore. But it's a learning process, and it's highly regulated by federal laws.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Martha, if you don't mind, before we wrap up and let you close us out, I do want to circle back to your journey in regards to breast cancer. We have Ms. Gloria Neesmith Clark here, and her question is, have you thought about starting the Relay for Life back up in King Street, because she is also a cancer survivor?
Actually, I hadn't thought about starting it, but it would be a good thing to do. I remember some folks that had it going on really good before, but I'm not sure who those contacts are. But tell her to reach out to me and maybe we can explore who the contacts are and get enough people with energy, because it takes some energy to
Yes, ma'am.
rebuild that and get it started. Um, So that is something we can do. There are support programs out there, but we can even start support groups.
Yes, ma'am.
Lynette Nelson does a good job on that last Saturday, I think in October, where we come together to do the walk.
Mm-hmm.
But we can do other support programs. We used to have one out in Andrews, but I don't think that it's functioning like it used to, where they had a support group during the month. But
Mm.
it is support groups that needs to be developed for that. So ask her to just send me something in Messenger.
Okay. So Miss Gloria Neesmith Clark, if you still on, Miss Martha would like to connect with you. If you would just shoot her a message through Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and she would definitely reach back out to you. Thank you for your question. Miss Martha, as we segue to close, um, one first question I have: how do you, as Miss Martha Darby Scott, would like for people to remember you as a business owner that started from, as you said, the boots on the ground, and also a community leader?
I think that folks will remember me as being a loving, kind person. I have a happy heart and I love people. My biggest thing that I love doing is I love helping people. I never really wish I was rich, but I love having enough that I can give other people.
Yes, ma'am.
I love being able to say yes when they ask. And I think that's why God blesses me. I know that's why He blesses me because
Absolutely.
I love being able to turn it over.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that people will remember me by being that kind of person. For the business, they would probably remember me as doing it well and being fair.
Mm.
Um, I don't look for a lot of accolades because I know that I've already earned them.
Yes, ma'am.
See, I know I've already earned the accolades, so people don't have to give them to me because I've earned them. And, if you live godlike, then you know you're okay.
Oh, yes.
So I just love helping people, helping families, children, um, the dads and the moms. They're both so important. The dads are so important.
Mm.
And we know the moms are so important. But moms, when it comes to the children's eyes, the dads are so important to them. They may never say, but the dads are so important to them.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank thank you for that. I also want to thank you publicly too, because back in December, I had a group of families that single parents, some income wasn't coming in that, and you yourself reached out so gracefully with your business, your family, and others, and you contribute to a lot of families that were in need during that time. And so I just want to publicly say thank you for not seeing it as a selfish cause, but seeing it selfless, that during Christmas, you didn't thought about just you and your household. You were willing to give to others. So I just wanted to say thank you for that as well. You all, we are winding down with Miss Scott here, who have shared and given us a lot of wisdom, knowledge, and took us kind of on a path of her journey. Even starting out as a 10 yet 11-year old little girl, I always have to say right there on the major highway of 521. And I just want to say thank you all for tuning in and asking your questions, yet just being a viewer just to hear more from her. So, Ms. Mott, I want to give you this time. We talked about what you would want to be remembered by, but I want you to think for a moment of some final words of encouragement that you would want to give all of us as listeners, viewers, especially with this being Women History Month, to our women to keep striving to build our dreams and to not let it be a damper no matter the situation. If you want to give any final words, I want to give you that opportunity to do so at this time.
Thank you again for the invite. I want to say to the women that we must build one another up. If we think that we have envy and jealousy in our hearts, let's pray and ask God to remove that because it just hinders your progress.
Yes.
When you release all of that, the sky will become the limit for you. When you release worrying about what anybody else have, you just open up the doors that you can receive more.
Yes, ma'am.
God got a blessing for us, all of us, but we got to get out the way and receive it. And the same things that I've been doing, you have those same kind of gifts, if not in this way, in another way.
Hmm.
But you got to move out of your way. And you got to open up your heart and replace it with love. Don't fool yourself if you don't have the real love.
Yes,
You got to
ma'am.
have a love for people and respect and wanting to see good in people and wanting to see good for people, whether you know them or not. So, Turquoise mentioned one thing that people would remember me by. I know that when I'm no longer here, they will remember me for singing.
Yes,
I've been
ma'am.
singing since I believe I was like 5 years old. So
And
I'm
does it
going to
well.
close out just with a little piece of this song
Mm.
for all of the listening ears. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory for the great things, for the wonderful things, for the marvelous things he has done.
Amen. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There you all have it. We took a seat at the table with Miss Martha Scott, you all, and she have brought all of the elements of herself here tonight. And I just can't thank you enough for all of the things that you have done, yet what you will continue to do. Thank you for pouring um, the words of inspiration to us, the encouragement, and just the journey of what you've done, yet what you are still currently doing. And I appreciate you just putting out there, the works of the community and where we as community individual play a part in. I want to close out with just a couple of events as she was talking about something to do. April 19th, Williamsburg County, along with other counties, will be going into spring break. So April 19th in Trier, South Carolina, we will have our first ever kids field party. So again, spring break, your kids are looking for something to do. You can bring them on out. I always tend to say the big city of Trier, South Carolina. Come on down. April 26th, myself with TR Development and a couple of other partners, we're partnering together to do a benefit ride for a young lady in some other community initiative. The 13-year-old out of Georgetown County back in February got hit with a hit and run accident. And so we want to support that family. So again, that's April 26th, and that's going to happen in Hemingway, South Carolina. Then we're going to come back in May 31st, you all. We're going to kick it off with a summer with bringing Frank Johnson. Some of you all may know him by his a couple of hit songs, Don't Step on My Shoe. Um, you can hate on me, but he is one of the rising artists under King George. And so we ask you all again, May 31st, right back in Trio, South Carolina, we'll have Mr. Frank Johnson there. So again, we talk about things that are going on right here in Williamsburg County. We ask that you all support these initiatives. Come out, come out, and come out. There's some other events as well. May 10th happening again with some of the stepping groups out in Hemingway, South Carolina as well. A lot of the flyers you see, I tend to share on my page, but again, I go back to what Ms. Martha shared in regards to these events. They're there. It takes a lot of us to get out and support them so that we can continue to bring other things to our county and people see that we are visible, yet see us working, and they can pour a seed back into us. So again, Ms. Martha, I thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
it. Thank you for sharing your wonderful, wonderful voice. And you all, until next time, continue to tune in, broadcasting results with Rouse. You all be blessed and have a good night.